It's Wednesday, May 27, 2020. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we're covering on today's episode of the show. Google is working to help businesses better indicate what services they have available at any given time by allowing them to place certain indicators in their profiles to help out consumers. Plus, Twitter made a bold move yesterday by placing fact-check symbols on a pair of the President of the United States tweets. We have the specific details and his responses so far. And joining us on the show, we have Barr, who you may know as the co-lead singer of Dropkick Murphys, to talk about their streaming from Fenway concert on Friday with Bruce Springsteen. Can't tell I'm excited. And the day is here. The time is almost upon us as SpaceX will be launching 2 NASA astronauts to the International Space Station. We'll have all the coverage of this monumental event and so much more on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thank you very much for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. We broadcast live here every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. And we have a lot to talk about today, so join in the conversation on whatever platform you're on. Hit the subscribe button. Let's get it started, though, right now with some trending news for you. And we'll start off with some news in relation to the coronavirus and the pandemic and some things that could be affecting you soon. Right now in Switzerland. We're going to Switzerland for this because they are the first country to adopt the new Google-Apple API for contact tracing. So this is the joint effort from Google and Apple that they have put out to the world to where their phones, both iOS phones and Android phones, would be able to communicate with each other via Bluetooth if a country or a governmental organization creates an app for it. So the app would essentially ping other people around you, and it doesn't collect, according to them, doesn't collect personal information. But if you have an app running created by a government using this API, then say you become sick, and it's kind of showcasing right there. If you become sick, they can use that app to then ping everybody else who has that app and let you know that, hey, you were within, say, 10 feet of somebody who had COVID-19, you should get yourself tested. So this is the whole idea of how possibly we can track this stuff down and maybe control it a little bit more and control the spread. Google and Apple have released this out all over the world. There's several different countries, they said, actually 22 countries that have said that they would like to use it. Then they've all been given permission. There's 5 U.S. states, I believe, that have actually said that they are going to use this, but none of them have developed anything yet. So Switzerland being the first one. So it's definitely going to be kind of a benchmark. We'll have to see how this works. Right now, it's just going out to their healthcare workers in particular so that they can track each other, but then this will be rolling out to the public, it sounds like, by the end of the week. So if a lot of people use it, it could be effective. If they don't, it's really not going to matter that much. That's the one thing with contact tracing, but something you should be aware of. So we'll see how it works out there, and it could be rolling out to a government entity near you soon. Continuing on here with our trending news. Speaking of that, let's talk about Google. Google has announced they are going to be helping out businesses by allowing them to add information onto their Google profile. So that's when you're searching for something, you're using Google, and it pulls up a business. Well, now companies will be able to add new descriptors that can talk about what they're actually offering right then. And I think we've all kind of gone through this where you're looking up, say, maybe your favorite restaurant. You're like, okay, are they open? What do they offer? Are they still, are they just, pick up only? Are they delivering for anybody? Well, this would allow these businesses to keep up with that, to help out consumers find out more. Consumers being, us who want to buy something, and using restaurants as an example, just because they have some specific things for them. But this is really going to be working for all businesses, in particular, small businesses who could really use the help of notifying customers, hey, here's what we're offering, here's what we can do for you, here's how you can support us or purchase our products. So an interesting thing from them, they've got a few other features that rolled out too. We've got all those details at digitaltrends.com that you can take a look at. But if you do know somebody with a small business or you own one, certainly something I would say that it's worthy of taking a look at to make sure that you're taking full advantage of what opportunities are out there for you. Continuing on, trending news, talking about businesses and some businesses opening back up. Apple being one that we've covered quite a bit here over the last couple of weeks. They had a few stores that reopened in the United States with some very strict guidelines, but now we've got a report. This is coming from CNBC, actually. We had this report that Apple is going to be opening up 100 more stores. So this would bring the total to around 130. It's kind of a guessing game. It's approximately 100 stores, but But what we would see there is a bunch more open up. A lot of them would just be for roadside service. So you would maybe call ahead, pick up something, or drop off something if you need to go to the Genius Bar. And then on top of that, if they do open up full, face masks will be required. A lot of them would actually be requiring temperatures being taken before you enter the store, and then social distancing on top of that. So also they said enhanced deep cleanings that would happen at the stores, which you'd expect. But Apple kind of leading the way, another one that could be a template for a lot of stores going forward to see how they handle this. A big company like Apple, what they're going to be doing, well, probably a lot of other people will follow suit. But we've got more details about that at digitaltrends.com as well. So there's some updates along those. Let's get to some other big stories that have happened over the last couple of days, and there is a lot that's happened. So we'll just give you some brief facts about a few things, and the facts right now are this. Twitter fact-checked the President of the United States. So you've probably seen this by this point, but there is some breaking news along with this, some replies that Trump had about that. But here's what happened. He posted a couple of tweets basically insinuating that mail-in ballots were led to fraudulent voting, and that it's a whole bunch of things in association with that. He said a bunch of things that they're illegal. Well, what happened is Twitter laid out that get the facts tag, that this is something that they said they were going to be doing to a lot of it they've been talking about in association with coronavirus misinformation, but this going towards the president about this, and then you click on that link and then it takes you to a page where it says this is a fraudulent claim and it's or unsubstantiated, excuse me, and then they list out a bunch of different things. Naturally, the response, well, unsurprisingly, was not received well by the President of the United States. So the response that he had today, actually there was a bunch that came out yesterday, but the breaking news that I want to get you to know today that a lot of people are talking about is something that he posted on Twitter, saying Republicans feel that social media platforms totally silence conservative voices. We will strongly regulate or close them down before we can ever allow this to happen. And then insinuated that it was an attempt to tamper with the upcoming presidential election. So the big real thing there is him saying that he would like to strongly regulate or close down social media platforms, which is opening up a lot of discussions about whether that's even possible, whether any governmental organization really has the power to do that. But something that's now, something that we're going to be discussing for a while. So again, just getting you the facts about it. That is what's happened so far. It's a rapidly developing story. We're following it very closely here at Digital Trends because naturally that's something that affects all of us. But we're seeing the first time where they're rolling out some of the fact checks. We've been talking to Twitter and getting some more information. So as that comes out, we'll have that on the website at digitaltrends.com about what this means going forward for fact checking. But that's what we have so far is Twitter has fact checked the President of the United States. So again, read more about it at digitaltrends.com. Continuing on, it's a big day. May 27th. This is the day we've been waiting for a while, especially if you're me, but I think I'm not the only one, because today is the day that SpaceX is going to be sending 2 astronauts to the International Space Station. The first time in almost 10 years from American soil that astronauts have actually been launched, that humans have gone to space. But on top of that, the first time a private space entity is sending people to the International Space Station. Huge day. Right now, it's the launch is scheduled for about 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Were some weather concerns, not really necessarily with where they're at as far as launching in Florida, but if something were to happen and the Crew Dragon capsule would have to escape from a rocket, like just say something went wrong, it has a really amazing safety mechanism set up to where the capsule detecting something can launch off away from the rocket, protecting the astronauts. But that fallout of where it lands, that's something that's a little bit hard to control because obviously that'd be uncontrollable circumstances. So you want it to be somewhere safe for them. That's what they're kind of monitoring right now, is a big swath of weather. I mean, all the way up to Newfoundland, over to Ireland to maintain that, see how that's working out, to see if it's going to be safe. But that's, as of right now, it looks like it is going to be going forward. And I do want to say that we'll be broadcasting it live here on this platform. So whatever you're watching on right now, stick around after this show's over in about an hour or so. We'll be pulling in live the footage and the coverage that they have, so you can just watch right here the entire time. So really, really excited about that. And one more thing here, just for breaking news too. Naturally, it is this, that HBO Max is now live. HBO Max going live, something that we've also been anticipating for a while. There's a lot that's Probably confusing a lot of people on it, and I want to say that maybe we have a segment here towards the end of the show that could help dispel some of the myths and misunderstandings about HBO Max. But HBO Max has rolled out 10,000 hours of content that is out there. A lot of shows are going to be available to watch, and some of you may already have free access to this. You just may not even realize it, and some of you might not. And that's part of what we could be talking about a little bit later in this show to help you understand it a little bit more. And by you, I'm talking about myself, because I want to watch it, but I just want to know how it's actually being rolled out to everybody. So that's something that's coming up here on the show. But again, HBO Max rolling out now, the latest entrant into the streaming wars. Read more about it at digitaltrends.com.
Hey, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's now time for the product of the day.
All right. We know about all the different kinds of smartwatches out there, but what about a classy one? That's what the product of the day is. It's the Fossil Men's Generation 4 Explorist HR stainless steel touchscreen smartwatch with the heart rate monitor. And that's not all. It's got GPS. It's got NFC. It hooks up to your smartphone so you can get the notifications through that. And just to kind of highlight a couple of those things, so the heart rate and activity are tracked using Google Fit, so it does integrate with that. It's got the built-in GPS for distance tracking. You always want to know where you're going, how far you've run, how far you biked, all of that stuff. It's swim-proof as well, so whatever your workout is, you can track that. It's got about a 24-hour battery life, and that's based on the usage plus 2 additional days in low power mode. It's got a magnetic USB rapid charger included, so you can charge up to 80% in under an hour, and it looks cool. You can change the background, you can change all kinds of things on it. It's a touch screen, so pretty cool smartwatch. Right now, it's regularly $275. It's on sale for $129. So that's a good deal if you're looking for a smartwatch. $129, and the way you get that deal is follow that link that is right there on the bottom of the page. Wherever you're watching this little segment right now, whatever platform you're watching it on, we've got a link for you. Click that link, type it in, and then you can follow along and get that deal. And there's all kinds of other specifications with this watch that are pretty cool that you'll definitely want to check out. But that is how you find out about it, is by clicking the link, following our product of the day. All right, we're going to take a break. We're coming back, and we have joining us the co-lead singer of the Dropkick Murphys, Barr, is going to be here on the show talking about their Streaming from Fenway concert that's coming up this Friday with, their special guest Bruce Springsteen, who's going to be joining them. That's not enough. Bruce isn't on the show. We've got Al on the show, and I am so excited to talk to him. That's coming up next, so stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thank you for joining us wherever you are. Hit that subscribe button. Join the show here every single weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, because we get to talk to some pretty amazing people, and that's what's coming up next. So over 13 million people have watched the Dropkick Murphys St. Patrick's Day live streaming event. I'm one of those people, and coming up again on Friday, May 29th, they are back with Streaming Out of Fenway, a free live concert with their special guest, Bruce Springsteen, also joining. There's so much to talk about this, and right now we are joined by the co-lead singer of the Dropkick Murphys. We have Barr. Hey, thank you so much for being here on the show. I mean, I'm going to tell you I'm a huge fan, number one. I'm just going to get that out of the way.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And I wanted to ask, for you, just, a musician, I know the tour was supposed to be going with Rancid, and obviously everything
We had,
changed, with
we had
this.
everything. We had things
How
booked.
things,
We had things booked pretty much. I mean, we had the whole summer booked. We had the fall into the fall. I mean, we were talking about, yeah, it was, yeah, it was like a bowling ball. It just came right down the alley and knocked all the pins over. It's all been canceled. 2020 is canceled. It's official. Yeah,
yeah,
very
I
strange.
know, right?
My
I mean,
22 years of being the lead singer of the Dropkick Murphys. This has never been. This is. I think this is all new to anyone in the history. But I mean, I haven't had this much time off from the road in 22 years of being the lead singer. So it's crazy. It is crazy.
I was going to say, you guys are always on the road, and that's one of those things too. There's a couple of things that I think are pretty neat about what you've done, with this. It's a situation nobody wants, obviously, but your shows are, one of the hallmarks of it is just the interaction with the crowd and just everybody being in there together, and it's a very interactive performance that Dropkick Murphys bring. But you've still been able to bring this with that live streaming concert for St. Patrick's Day. And so I wanted to ask, how has it been for you adapting to that? And what kind of changes have you had to go through just mentally prepare for streaming this without that crowd?
It's very, here's the thing. The St. Patrick's Day live stream was such a, it was like on the fly in the sense that we were literally scheduled to do the Live Nation House of Blues shows in Boston, and then literally, like hours before it all got canceled, and so this was our way of saving St. Patrick's Day. But going into it, I don't think any of us ever knew, how many people we were going to reach with the show. We just were doing it for our fans, and so. And do we have, you said something like 13 million people watched. Well, geez, our record sales don't reflect 13 million fans. So I'm going to say that probably most of those people hadn't ever heard of us before. So that's, I think the most amazing thing for us in a band like us, because we're not a band that stands behind radio hits or a big machine. We come from the street. We built ourselves up from the bands, and touring the small club circuit for many, many years. So, this whole thing is, we're kind of making it up as we go along, if you will.
Well, you're doing a great job at it, because clearly that worked. A lot of people really needed that on that particular day for St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, no, it was awesome. And this concert coming up too at Fenway, I want to talk to you about that, about what it means for you, and really to give everybody just a little bit of context too, because I want to try to understand how you're going to do this on the field at Fenway. How are you going to space out the band? How is that all going to work for you?
Well, so Massachusetts, I live in New Hampshire, I live for your dad's state. And Massachusetts has had a lot worse of a run with the COVID-19. So they have a lot more people that have been infected with it. They have a lot more deaths than New Hampshire. So I'm coming down. Yesterday was the first time that I left the state to come down to Boston, and it was strange. And there's so many health protocols that I have to follow before I even leave my house. I have to do this questionnaire every morning and send it to Fenway. I have to be self-sufficient once I get into the park. I can't. We just basically go into the park with our masks and our gloves on, and we have to wear our masks the whole time until we go onto the field to perform. And now we are performing on the field, on the diamond. We're not gonna. We can't go on the pitcher's mound or anything like that, but we're actually on the field, which has never been done before. Bands play on the field, but they cover the field because of the baseball season. And because right now there is no baseball being played in Fenway, they are for the first time allowing a band to stand on the baseball diamonds, which is, it's pretty wild, man. And, the Red Sox did a DKM logo. They cut a DKM logo into the grass and a shamrock, and Kenny posted it yesterday on the socials. It looks amazing. It's pretty, for a guy who grew up in New England, we've been working with the Red Sox since 2003. We resurrected the old fight song Tessie. And anybody who followed that story knows that in 2004, after 86 years of a drought, the Red Sox won the World Series for the first time in a very long time. And if you follow folklore, the Dropkick Murphys are taking all the credit for that, because we resurrected the fight song that because when that fight song was being sung, they never lost. And then when they traded the Babe cursed Fenway, left. The Royal Rooters, who were the ones who sung the song, they were like the baseball / soccer hooligans of the time, if you will. So they'd intimidate the other team by singing this song. It's about a woman's parrot. It's not very intimidating. We had to change the lyrics, but anyways, following folklore, they won, and they've won. I have to say, anytime we've been called into a Game 7 situation with the Red Sox, they've always gone on to victory. So, and of course, we're going to take credit for that, with a grain of salt.
I mean, it looks like they're giving you credit right now too by having you play on the field because nobody else has actually done it.
We're very honored and very humbled, and we're just lucky to be here, man. That's the way we look at it. We're just a bunch of guys who, wanted to start a band and did, and they've been doing music for a long time and playing for the people around the world, and it's just kind of turned into this, and it's like it's amazing. When people always ask us, well, when you came up with this plan or this and that, it's like there's never really been a grand scheme of a plan, you know what I mean, in terms of our career. It's all just, we just keep going on tour and we just keep putting out records, and that's really that's what you do if you're in a band, and and then it's up to the fans, if you get any, to decide if you're worth anything or not.
Right. Well, clearly you are. I mean, your fans love you, and now all these other people are getting to see you too. And one of the other things I wanted to ask you about is, in conjunction with this, you're going to be performing, but also you're bringing in remotely Bruce Springsteen, who I know is a friend of all of yours. One thing I wanted to ask, I've met a few people. I've never met Bruce Springsteen, but I've met a few people who have, and they all seem to have a story about Bruce, just because apparently he's just such a nice guy. I wondered if there's any story about him that you'd want to share with us.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, well, to start with, we met him for the first time. We found out his son was a fan of the band, and so we invited. We were playing a show. We were playing a show in. Excuse the doorbell for a minute. That's my 7-year-old son outside, who's been told to stay away from the house for the time being, but it's 7, so he doesn't. Anyway, sorry about that. So, what was it? Oh yeah. So Bruce came out to a show in New York City in 2008, and it was crazy because he came in with his son and just like one security guy who was with him, I guess, because it's the city, and they built like a stand for him to stand on, and he was so close to the stage, and it was like the whole night I was trying not to look at Bruce Springsteen because I'm just like, because he's like totally engaged watching us. He's smiling. He's got his hands in the air. He's really enjoying the show, which was great, but also kind of surreal, because it's Bruce Springsteen. Then after the show, we actually know before, sorry, it was a while ago. We met him right before we went on, and he was the nicest guy. But that was very brief. In 2013, I want to say, or 2012, I think it was 2013. But anyways, he came out and did a show with us in Boston, one of our St. Patrick's Day shows, and he just showed up, and it was so cool because he wanted to do the sound check with us. We were doing an E Street Band song called Badlands, and then there was a song that Kenny sings called Peg in My Heart about his 2 grandmothers named Peg. And then he did Shipping up to Boston with us. But so he shows up to the House of Blues in Boston, and the doors open, and it's just a dude with the guitar and his son. And we're like, is that Bruce? Oh my God, that's Bruce. He's here. And there's no entourage, no security, just him and his son and the guitar. And he walks in, and he already asked, he's like, I need the lyrics. And we're like, to our song. He goes, no, Badlands, I need lyrics. I'm like, he needs the lyrics. And we're like, oh, well, you don't know you haven't done it well? He goes, no, man, we have teleprompters on stage. I never look at them, but if they're not there, I'll mess it up. And so we had the lyrics to Badlands written out. He didn't look down at it one time, but it was like a safety net for him or something. It was funny. And so we sound check all 3 songs, and I sing Kenny sings Peg and with Bruce, and we both sing Shipping, obviously, but I sing Badlands, which is a little so we do a cover of a band, that's one thing, but the guy who wrote the song's on the stage now, the guy who's made the song, iconic, is on the stage now, so it's a little bit intimidating for a ham and egger like me. So I'm just kind of like, I kind of wanted to ask him because we hadn't even gone over how we're going to do the song. So I'm like, Bruce, Mr. Springsteen, I didn't really know where I was going with that, So I was like, hey, do you want to do the first verse and I'll do the second verse. Do you want to, how do you want to do this? And he's like, no, Al, you do the first one, maybe I'll do the second one. And, maybe we'll split up the third. I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. So we sound check the song, and he's putting his guitar back in his case, and he just looks up at me and he goes, man, Al, you sing the hell out of that. And I was just like, I just felt all the hair on my neck stand up, and it was just like, that validation from the guy who wrote the song. It doesn't get better than that when, you get acknowledged by somebody, who's really done something that you admire, anyway, it was that's my Bruce Springsteen story. Very cool.
That's an amazing story. It's really, really cool, and that's why I'm so looking forward to this too. Coming up this Friday, I want to remind everybody again, just to give you the details. So during the live stream, there's a text to donate campaign to support 3 nonprofits: Boston Resiliency Fund, Feeding America, and Habitat for Humanity in the greater Boston area. And it's coming up this Friday, May 29th, free. 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Everybody can tune in. I will definitely be watching. And Al, thank you very much for taking some time to talk to us about this. Everybody follow along. It's just going to be fun. It's something that's needed. And thanks for bringing it to us.
Yeah, man, we're excited, man. Thanks so much for having me. We'll see you on Friday.
Yep, definitely. All right, Al Barr, right there from Dropkick Murphys. That is so cool. Okay, I know we need to get to a break, so let's do that. We're coming back. We're talking about SpaceX. We're going from rock and roll to space. How much cooler does it get than that? All right, let's do that. Coming up next, we've got Georgina to talk about the SpaceX launch. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks for joining. Hit the subscribe button. I encourage you to do that because then you get notifications when we're live, because we have awesome things that we talk about here on this show every day. And this is a day that a lot of people have been waiting for. It is May 27th, and SpaceX is, as of right now, still scheduled to launch at 1:30 p.m. Pacific, 4:30 Eastern, a monumental moment in space exploration, sending 2 astronauts to the International Space Station. But to talk about some more of the details about this, we have our own Georgina Torbett here on the show. Georgina, thank you so much for being here. And I guess I said that we're still on track, but I haven't actually checked. I know there were some concerns about weather. Can you fill us in on what's happening so far?
Sure. So they really need clear skies for this kind of launch. You don't want any complications with like rain or high winds. So it's about 50-50 at the moment is NASA's latest update on whether they're going to be able to launch today or not. So there's about 4 hours to go until the launch. And in that time, they're going to keep an eye on the weather, make sure it doesn't get any worse. And if it's okay, then they'll launch today. And if not, then they'll delay the launch until Saturday.
Okay, so it could happen in a couple of days, then it might be delayed a couple of days, but as of now, 50-50, so that's still good. Looking at it from this standpoint, though, just this launch in general, can you walk us through just some of the major points of this, of why this is such a big deal?
Yeah, right. The really big one is that since the space shuttle program ended in 2011, the US hasn't sent any astronauts into space from US soil. Instead, when astronauts need to go to the International Space Station, for example, they'll go on a Russian Soyuz rocket. And so getting America kind of back into the space game has been a major aim for NASA. And so this launch is potentially the start of a long-term, it's called the Commercial Crew Program, where NASA wants to contract companies like SpaceX to ferry their astronauts around to take charge of the launches and of moving astronauts to where they need to be. So part of the reason it's such a big deal is that it's been nearly a decade since American astronauts have launched from US soil in this way. And the other reason it's a big deal is also that it's this kind of new model for what the future of privatization in space might look like, how government agencies like NASA and private companies like SpaceX might cooperate. And in addition to that, it's also, it's the first manned test flight of the Crew Dragon. So it's always exciting when there's a totally new piece of technology being tested in this way.
I think that's another interesting point too, because it's called Demo-2, and it's a test flight of this, a manned test flight. So given that kind of context, what exactly does that mean? You know, if the flight's successful, what does that mean for the, I mean, obviously you hope it's successful, but there's a lot of safety measures I know in place. What does that mean for this?
So it means that this isn't sort of officially a mission as you might normally think of it. Like typically when astronauts go to the ISS, it's because they're needed to be on the space station to keep it running and to perform experiments. But the 2 astronauts, Doug and Bob, who are flying in the Crew Dragon, they're there as ISS guests because this is part of this test flight program. So they've done a lot of unmanned tests on the Crew Dragon, but at some point, if you want to see if it works, you have to put real people in them and send it on a real journey. And so if everything goes to plan, then pretty soon, within maybe even a few months, it could be that NASA gets SpaceX to start ferrying their astronauts around on a regular basis. On the other hand, if they discover any problems, then there's still the option for SpaceX to make more changes to the Crew Dragon to tweak any systems that might need adjustment. And so really it's just a way to see, okay, in theory, this craft works ideally and everything is great, but you don't really know how it's going to work out until you actually put people and send them on a real journey.
which is why it's a very, very exciting moment. One other thing I had to ask you too, or I just want to get your opinion on, the reusability of these rockets is a major factor because it brings down the cost so much. And you mentioned, within a few months, if everything goes successfully, this could be something that they do more. Does this mean that we could see these launches happen a lot more than we ever used to before? Would it be on a bigger scale, or would it still probably be, around the same as it was before?
So probably the limiting factor wouldn't be necessarily the cost of the launch when you're talking about getting astronauts to the ISS, in that because the astronauts tend to stay up there for periods of months or in some cases even years, you don't need to change over the crew that regularly. And in fact, there's some advantages to having people be in the ISS for an extended period. There definitely could be, I think, upcoming changes to things like satellite launches and these sort of smaller scale launches, which at the moment are kind of prohibitively expensive often. And so one of the things that SpaceX has, aside from this manned exploration aspect, is the ability to potentially make rocket launches cheaper for smaller companies or for scientific research. But it's also worth saying that while reusable rockets are potentially and eventually they will be cheaper, they're still, no one knows exactly how much SpaceX spends on these things because they don't release their finance figures, but it's probably still pretty expensive at the moment for SpaceX to launch any kind of rocket. And the reusability aspect is definitely getting better. They're getting a lot better at catching the boosters and reusing them, but they don't catch every single one. Sometimes they still end up falling into the ocean. So the point at which reusable rockets are affordable for all, if you will, is still quite a way off. But this is definitely sort of part of the step towards getting there.
It's definitely exciting. And so this is, again, going on 1:30 p.m. Pacific today, weather depending, 4:30 Eastern. We'll be rebroadcasting it live on whatever platform people are watching on right now, so they can certainly do that afterward. And Georgina, I want to say thank you so much. Always fun talking to you, getting your knowledge about all of this. It's an exciting day. I'm really excited for it. I hope it does happen today. And if not, well, sounds like Saturday, maybe the day. But either way, thank you for being here. Always good to see you, Georgina.
My pleasure. Thanks. And good to see you too, Greg.
All right, so there we go, talking about SpaceX. That's so cool. So many fun things to talk about. Coming up next, we've got, as usual on Wednesdays, our own Winnie Sun. Winnie Sun is going to be joining us to talk about finances and some different things that should be concerning for you, including how you have a financial first aid kit, something that's very important that we should all be thinking about. She's going to help walk us through that. That's coming up next right here on Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Appreciate all of you joining us. Feel free to share the show or hit subscribe because we provide a lot of really interesting interviews and information for you. We've got both of those happening right now. Joining us, we have Winnie Sun once again. Winnie, always here to help guide us through, in particular this crazy time, but really any time when it comes to our finances. And Winnie, I know there's something specific that we wanted to talk about today, which is a financial first aid kit. Can you talk to us about what that is and what we should be doing to have one of those?
Absolutely, Greg. This is a big deal. And I'm so glad we're actually going to talk about that today because A financial first aid kit is not unlike your regular first aid kit that you might have in your home or your car, with band-aids and all that. But with a financial kit, you want to think about what's in this kit just in case you need to up and move, or you're not able to get things in order and you have to go somewhere you're unexpected. Everything should be in there in an orderly fashion. So many of us have financial documents here and our social security statement here and our credit card information here, but we want you to put it all in one place. That way it's not only easy for you to find, but those who love you, in case you need to get to it, they'll know where to get everything as well.
So putting it all physically together, like actually all that information so that somebody can actually access it if needed.
Absolutely. So you're talking about your all your bank accounts, your financial brokerage accounts, your 401k statement, your IRAs, insurance, right? Your rental agreement or your mortgage or your credit card. I always say include also a copy of your passport. So think about all those things. A lot of people will say, well, should I go ahead and just put them physically together? And that is a great thing, of course, if a lot of those things are physical, like your passport, but also keep a digital copy and make sure it's encrypted. So you can keep it on something like this, like just like a standard hard drive. But I also like keeping an encrypted copy on the cloud. And really important, have a copy of your financial first aid kit with someone you trust outside of your state. So in case, like, for example, we've seen a lot of people during this pandemic all of a sudden had to pack up, go to the hospital, right? What if your family members need to help you with things that they don't know where to find? And you just want to make sure it's nicely organized. This is the perfect time to do this exercise.
That's a great idea. I will be working on that later today, realizing now that I don't have that put together. So financial first aid kit, very important. Now, another thing a lot of people are thinking about is investing in just retirement funds. And I know, with turmoil going on, sometimes it's hard to determine what the best way to go about that is. Do you have some guidelines for us or some advice on what to do right now?
Absolutely. A lot of people are saying, and this has been trending, a lot of people say, well, I still am one of the fortunate individuals that has income, but there's certain things that I'm able to take advantage of since I haven't filed my taxes yet, or even if you have filed your taxes. So something that a lot of people don't realize is even if you are contributing to your 401k, each and every year, every US taxpayer is also allowed to make an IRA contribution. So if you already started stocking away into your 401k, you want to do something else on the side that will give you liquidity in case you need to access money too. And IRA is a great idea. So you've heard of the Roth IRA. If you fit that criteria and you fit the financial threshold, like usually it's about, if you make less than 100,000, you can go directly to Roth IRA. But if you don't, if you make more, then you can also go into a traditional IRA. And this oftentimes is tax deductible upfront, tax deferred on the back end. But if you're in a situation where you don't qualify for the Roth, but you're young like Greg and you want to have lots of time for that tax-free future growth, then you might even consider a traditional IRA converting into a Roth IRA. So you can always do both. Don't forget, a lot of even financial professionals don't know that you can actually have both 401k and IRA each and every year.
Nice. Okay, the flattery doesn't go unnoticed either, by the way. Okay, so looking at it from from another way too. So for people who do maybe lose their job and lose their paycheck, what are some guidelines and things that they can have to follow to help make sure that they're secure?
Absolutely. So right now, when you're focusing on the fact that you're unemployed, you're stressed out, you're not sure when monies are going to come into place, probably the first thing you want to do right now is go through the exercise of doing the financial first aid kit. And it sounds funny because you're like, why am I organizing my money right now? Because I'm stressed about money. But the nice thing about going through the exercise is you identify where you have money and where you can access your money. And then you can also figure out who you can contact to try and get your, the less you spend, the more you actually have. So take a look at your credit card statements, call the credit card companies, talk to your landlord or your mortgage bank, whoever handles your shelter. Call the utility companies too. A lot of utility companies, believe it or not, will let you defer payments right now, as well as mortgage payments and all that. So you want to try to look for that. And then also, when you have your financial documents in order, it's easier should you need to then apply for a personal loan or other access to funding. This is a great time to get organized, and also take a moment to obviously go to the IRS website and just make sure that they have your banking information. in case and when that next round of stimulus funding will come into place.
Which is perfectly timed, because that's what I wanted to ask about. A lot of people are still just getting their stimulus check. I just got mine last week, finally, and I know some other people are just getting that. But there's already talk that another round could happen. Can you talk through us what this could mean?
What it could mean? Well, great question. I'm glad you got your check, so that's good. But ideally, we're looking at hopefully having some funds available by Independence Day, by July 4th, because we know that the government's going back into deep discussions on June 1st. I actually think this should be sooner. So we've seen already one party's already passed the House. They're looking for more guidance in terms of another stimulus check, ideally giving families up to $6,000 of aid, which I think federal relief, which is really, really necessary. And then there's talks on the other side about sort of increasing unemployment dollars until January of 2021. Unfortunately, some of the Republican Party has said that we're not going to do that. But I think no matter how you look at it, relief is necessary. And I don't know how much longer people can wait. So I'm hoping they make a decision sooner than later so that people do feel some sense of financial relief. And then that way they feel more able to shelter in place, right? Because they can fend for themselves.
Yeah, it helps just to be able to plan out like that. I know for so many people, but like you said, a great way to plan is this financial first aid kit as well, which is great advice. And as always, you provide great advice, and that's why we really appreciate you joining us. And everybody should follow Winnie on every one of her platforms. Watch her shows, sungroupwp.com, right there as well. So go there. And Winnie, as always, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Greg, for having me. It's great talking to you.
Yeah, great to talk to you too. All right, so Winnie Sun right here on the show. And continuing with the show, we've got something else coming up. It is also, as I said, Wednesday, which means it's time for TBD. What is it going to be about? Well, you'll have to stick around to find out. So Adrian and Jess will be here with us after the break. Stick around right back after this with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks for joining us. And it is time for another edition of TBD. What does that mean? Well, that's what we're going to find out. Joining us right now, we have Jess Serba and Adrian Warner. Jess, hello to you. Thank you for being here today. How are you doing? I'm doing great. And also, we have, of course, Adrian Warner, who is here. And Adrian, I got to ask you, A, how are you doing also? But what does TBD stand for today?
I'm doing great. And today's TBD stands for Talking About Drama, because we're going to be talking all about the release of HBO Max, which is coming out today.
Yeah, I know. I've been kind of looking forward to it, but it's also kind of confusing, which is why I'm glad that we're going to be talking about that today. I like TV, but I don't understand what HBO Max actually gives me. So maybe you can walk us through a little bit of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It is confusing for good reason because there's a bunch of different HBO options out there. But let's just start with the basics. What is HBO Max? It's kind of literally what it says it is. It's a maximized option for HBO subscribers. It's going to include an insane amount of content, 10,000 hours of premium content, and it's going to bundle all of HBO together along with original shows and movies plus non HBO network programming. So you're going to get a lot of HBO content, but then you're also going to get things like Friends, which left Netflix earlier this year. You're going to get South Park, Big Bang Theory, and then a lot of classic movies. So basically, HBO Max is going to pull the entire Warner Media collection. So you're going to get classics like Casablanca and Citizen Kane, plus a lot of cult hits. So all the Lord of the Rings films and every DC film from the last decade is going to be available on HBO Max, plus every Batman and Superman movie from the last 40 years. And two really big, within that kind of cult category, two really big offerings that HBO Max is going to have is one thing is the Doctor Who series. All 11 seasons of the most modern iteration of Doctor Who are going to be exclusive to HBO Max, and the entire Studio Ghibli collection, which has never been available on a streaming service in full before. And we really thought that was going to be coming to Disney Plus, but HBO Max is going to be offering it instead. So you're going to get all of this for $15 a month, technically $14.99, which is crazy.
Yeah, that is a lot. I mean, for the Doctor Who fans out there, which I have not started Doctor Who, but 11 seasons of Doctor Who, that's going to get a lot of people involved.
It's going to get a lot of people invested. Yeah. And just to clear up too a little bit of like what it is and what it's not. So it is HBO, but it's also not HBO is the one way I heard it described. So it's one of the 3 options that HBO now has. So HBO Go is if you already have a subscription through cable. Who has that still? I don't know. But HBO Now is what a lot of us may be familiar with because it's kind of a la carte. If you don't have an HBO subscription through your cable provider, you can sign up for that. And anybody who has an HBO Now subscription can roll it into HBO Max. So that's kind of like the next tier up. I don't know why you would pay for HBO Now for less content when it's the same price for more content. And we don't really know too if HBO Max is going to go away. HBO Now is going to go away at some point. Excuse my mistake, because they have a lot of distribution agreements in place, but it wouldn't really make sense to hang on to it for too long. So they're going to try and hit a bunch of subscribers, 50 million by 2025, and HBO Max is owned by AT&T, and like I said, they're pulling on all the Warner Media, libraries. So I see a lot of people signing up kind of for this premium service in the near future. And I'm also going to let Jess know. Hand it over to Jess who's going to give you the scoop on, all who's going to get it for free this week and what it's going to include for new shows.
And I know that we've got a little bit of a time crunch, but there are some specific things though. Jess, can you tell us what those are really quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me get through this quickly for you. First of all, things are just a bit of a mess, I think, from this side. First, as Adrian mentioned, many HBO Now customers will be upgraded to HBO Max automatically. However, the deciding factor on who is getting that upgrade comes down to one thing, which is who handles your billing. So if you're billed through HBONow.com or Apple or Google, the answer is yes, you get HBO Max. If, however, you subscribe to HBO Now through a third-party service that does not happen to be Apple or Google, the answer is going to be no, unfortunately. So, which means if you get your HBO via Amazon Prime Video or via Roku, you will not be upgraded. So your next question, of course, is what if I still use a cable provider, or what if I access HBO via another streaming service? So this is when the HBO Max Partners comes in, and this does include a bunch of different cable providers across the country. A few of the larger ones and streamers that will allow their HBO subscribers to get HBO Max are YouTube TV, Hulu, Cox Communications, and Verizon. DirecTV and AT&T TV, which are under Warner Media, are included, but it is important to note that the timeline may be varied based on your plan. So it could run from anywhere for getting it for a month to 3 months to a year, etc. The blatant exception here, which is interesting in regard to cable providers, is Comcast. You will not be able to get HBO Max for free at launch. You'll still get regular HBO if you pay for it, but you won't get any of the HBO Max exclusives, which do look really interesting. They will have, about 6 original series that they're launching with, and it looks like much will come over the summer. A few of the ones are, Looney Tunes, which is bringing back our favorite Warner Brothers animation characters. Love Life, which is like a fresh romantic comedy anthology series starring Anna Kendrick. So there's definitely a lot to look at, and I'm excited to definitely check out all of the new originals.
Yeah, I want to try it out too. Now I've just got to figure out, I don't think I get it for free, but this is much better guidance than I had before, and that is why I appreciate these segments every week. And I know that we're short on time, so we'll have Kickstop it next week, but we cannot leave without Charlie Cam. We have to have Charlie
That's right.
Cam.
I captured this yesterday. It's so glorious. Look at him sing the song of his people.
Look at him. He's majestic as always.
That is the perfect way to wrap up this show. All right, Jess, Adrian, thank you so much. As always, another great edition of TBD, and I will talk to you soon. All right, so we're back. Okay, here's the thing. We've packed so much into this show, we need to get out because we're going to be rebroadcasting exactly what is happening with SpaceX. So you're watching us on a certain platform right now. Stay on that platform. We're going to close out, and then we'll start right back up. Hit the subscribe button. That's something that if you haven't done, definitely do that. That way you get the notifications. Also, share the show. Coming up tomorrow on the show, we've got a lot that's going to be happening as well. So Lisa Marie Segarra is back. We've got so many different things that we're going to be discussing. And as always on this show, we pack a lot in to a short amount of time to make sure that you are informed and get to hear some really cool things. But stick around. SpaceX is coming up. We'll be back with that in just a few. This is Digital Trends Live.